Rhonda Ferguson is here with me, and Hervé Cavanagh are joining me in the studio. They're from Hydro One Not For Sale. You can go to hydronotforsale.com, although it appeared as hydronotforsale.ca. Any reason for that? And welcome.
Thank you. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, if there was a reason.
Don't know?
Don't know.
Yeah, I see. hydronotforsale.ca.
.ca.
And then I'm there.
Okay.
That's what I punched up. Operation Unplug Privatization. Are you one of the 80% of Ontarians who want to stop the scheme to privatize Hydro One? Are you, Rhonda?
I am, actually.
and Hervé, I assume you're one of those 80% too?
I definitely am.
Now, I guess the first question, well, first, I love this box because it's a big X. So am I ready to do my part? Yeah. There's stuff in the background I want to see. And I guess, okay, I got the message. I closed the box and, okay, we've got another problem. But that's okay. I got other pages. I got, do you know about youpaytheprice.ca?
Yep.
That's not your page.
That's not my page.
And of course, this is from the Financial Post. So, first of all, let's talk about what you guys are. Who formed you? Who runs the show? Who is this group that you're representing?
So we're a Citizen Coalition Against Privatization, and it's a group of people over Ontario, former MPPs, councillors, you and me kind of people. We have a fair amount of, it's a board, a nonpartisan group of Ontarians working together to stop the privatization of hydro. Mm-hmm. So it's been guided by the advisory committee of prominent citizens across the province. And as I mentioned, some of those others before, like former MPP Bud Wildman, Sudbury activist Stephanie Harris, retired Timmins trade activist Ben Lever, friends of over 55 senior group, Jack O'Neill. So the list kind of goes on and on. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I did some research, of course, and then when we met at the International Plowing Match in Finch in mid-September. Was it September?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, of course. And we talked a bit, and we're on the same wavelength. But I think things have changed, or maybe they changed that day, because I've got an article here from the Financial Post on September 18th, and basically it's too late. Haven't they started selling Hydro One?
The 15% is supposed to be going up anytime from the Improto actually went out, and they're planning on selling off probably the starting of November, and that's why the deadline is kind of near, right? We're really actively. Yeah, Harry, jump in whenever you want to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just to add to that and to answer your question as well, I don't believe it is too late. We're pretty close, but our campaign is getting traction. We've been meeting with different town council. We've been meeting with lots of medias. We've been attending town hall meetings. We've been going to community events. We've been meeting with different community groups, and we're simply engaging in a discussion. Mm-hmm. First, we're telling people what's happening. We're giving the information, because most people don't even know what's happening. And I think it's a mistake from the government, is they keeping them misinformed or not informed at all. So one of the goals is to inform people so you can make an educated decision on whether you want to support this or not. Mm-hmm. And
what do I need to know?
Well, basically what Kathleen wants to know.
It's just a company. We're just selling it.
It's a company. But that company is a corporate, is a crown corporate. It belongs to us. It belongs to all Ontarians. So basically, everybody in this room, everybody in this town, everybody that listens to your radio, our owner.
Okay, so I hear that and I get that. But how can one prove that? How can I prove that I'm a part owner? Is it only because I'm still paying a debt retirement charge? I pay taxes. I've been doing it for so long that we built Ontario Hydro. Is that why we own it?
No, almost for 1,000 years.
Not 1,000.
100. I apologize.
It's okay.
For 100 years, actually, it was made public, and we've owned it. And the purpose of making it public was to keep it affordable and keep it for everybody to actually be able to enjoy.
And to add to that is it was really a backbone of our society. At some point throughout the 1950s and 1960s, the economy was booming back then. It was after the war. People needed to have access to cheap energy. The economy was like really, really getting traction, and we're moving forward. And by taking control of the energy and the distribution of the energy, the government was able to create an environment that was favorable to this kind of economy, and everybody participated. Everybody chipped into it. It belonged to us. We were able to build something together, and all of a sudden we're facing a situation where we're just going to have a fire sale and get rid of it. And I'm concerned about that.
Yeah. What are the ramifications? I mean, there seems to be many, and I'm not sure some of the claims are accurate. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to do a reload on this to find out why nothing was found on your website. It's weird, eh? Because I was looking at this last night, and you had all sorts of wonderful graphics.
Yeah.
And they're all gone.
I think it saw you coming.
If you go to menu,
I'm
would
going
that
to
help?
English and see what happens. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, so let's tackle these things kind of one by one. Of course, when you say public, we're saying the government owns it, right?
Correct.
Okay. And when we say private, we mean some rich guy called Bob might own it.
Or a corporation. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a rich guy, because the way business is done nowadays, I don't think it's just one big guy that calls a shot.
No.
You got shareholders, you got a lot of pressure.
Well, and that's why the Financial Post said the IPO, which I think, what does that stand for? The something, I had it in my head, but it's basically they're submitting some sort of proposal.
That's right.
That's starting in November. Stocks will be available at a certain price.
That's
and
right.
I thought I knew what IPO meant, and it's slipping my mind, but
It sounds close enough to me.
okay. So that's why I say it seems like it's too late. It seems like she's pushing ahead. The article at the very bottom says the only way this is going to stop, I think, let me see if I can find it. No, it was a different page. Maybe it was this one. I can't remember. Anyway, I found a page that said it's a done deal. Can we stop it?
I believe we can. We've been talking to a lot of MPPs over the course of the last month and a half. Even the Conservative, even the NDPs actually are disagree with the sale, especially the way it's set up. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no set parameters. We'll try 15% now, and then maybe more, maybe none. They have no really clear, concrete transparency either. The Chambers of Commerce actually have submitted a letter to the provincial government in request for those transparency and a guarantee that your rates won't go up, and they've met with silence. There's no reply. So even the people who are supposed to be for the business, they actually estimate that 1 in 20 businesses will actually go out of business just because of the privatization of hydro. They won't be able to afford the hydro bills.
Mm-hmm. See, we already have high hydro rates.
We do.
And I don't know when they went up. They just magically get higher every month for me. And at the same time, it's so ludicrous from my point of view, especially when time of use came in. I was around before time of use. I saw time of use came in. And I said, well, that's not going to change anything. It's going to shift the demand for power, which it did, because now my time of use, like my after whatever midnight cost, is actually more than my entire hydro bill because everything's been shifted to that.
It changes the peak time,
It changes the peak time.
Because most people are using it at different peak times,
I think that was just a crock. I mean, I don't think that served any useful purpose.
No, the reason behind those hours and the peak hours and everything, it just gives the impression to the consumer that you have control of when you can. And I've worked in the States as a healthcare provider, and same thing with private insurance down there. They'll give you a package where you think, oh, you can use the way this money is invested in your healthcare the way you want it to be. But the bottom line is they still give you very little choice with a very little restraint budget. And you can't avoid the increases. You can't avoid the pressure. So it only gives an impression.
I think you kind of touched upon it, though, there, Tick, is you said you don't know when the prices kind of started going up. Well, that we can actually track that back to 1999 when it was actually split up and the old Ontario Hydro was made into 3 different entities. For 100 years, our kilowatts actually sat at 4 cents. It was regulated. It never went up until 1999 when we partially privatized it. Our rates dramatically increased almost immediately to 10 times the amount in the last 10 years than over 100 before that. So we can actually say that moving into a further privatization situation, we are going to have a more increased rates. It's up to the government to actually help us out, be accountable to us. We wanted to listen.
See, some would say privatization is a good thing because they're doing it for profit. They won't have like 200 people making over $100,000 a year, or the number's even higher than that. I think with Hydro One, there's, well, I think I read last night 1,800 employees that are always over the $100,000 mark.
That statement I have to disagree with because there's actually
which one? Mine, the first one?
The statement where you said that privatization is sometimes a better thing.
Well, no, I'm just putting it out there because
right.
they're there to make a profit, so they'll have efficiencies. They can probably fire a few people, and they won't be making as much money. But I don't know.
And I would put it back. I would put it back to the provincial government. If somebody in the private sector can do it better, why aren't we doing it that way?
Oh, well, that's
right.
That's totally different issue. That's politics and management, which is they're linked together. Most of the world's problems are based on horrible management and politics.
Right.
Let's face it.
So instead of selling it, why wouldn't you fix the problems? And let's face it, I can't afford my bills as it is, right? But I certainly can't afford to pay somebody else's bills. When it comes to money in a corporation pocket, I'd much rather see my money go into the corporation of Ontario government and have it work for me instead of going overseas or out of country or out of province. We need to keep that money. We need to keep that asset.
And let's get back to your first statement about kind of disagreeing with my statement, but go.
Because we've seen some example of privatization that has not worked out. And in fact, we've seen too many examples.
Show me.
Well, the 407, for example, has been sold, has been privatized. And for example,
that's the toll highway.
That's the toll highway, which
Toronto.
used to be a
that was a
Crown
TO
Corporation,
thing,
but it's been sold.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So if I drive from one end to the other, it'll cost me $33. For example, I drove to Quebec to visit my family, so I took a highway to go around the island of Montreal, Highway 30, and I took a toll bridge over there. It cost me $2.40 for about the same distance. So you got an example where it's private and it cost me $33. Okay. You got a public one, it cost me $2.40.
But how much did it cost before it went private, if you know what I mean? Like, how much was the toll to do the 407 when it was first opened?
No idea. I didn't drive it.
Oh, okay.
But to give you another example, with hydro and electricity across the country, 2 provinces went and privatized completely their system, Nova Scotia and Alberta. And the moment they did that, the prices went up. Of course, the responsibility is towards the shareholder, so you want to maximize your profit. So one of the things you're going to do to maximize your profit is increase your rate. Another one that you're going to do is to try to cut down the expenses like suggested. How can you do this? You start laying off people, you cut down the wages and the benefits. In some cases, you may argue that it might be a good thing, but it also means you have fewer people to look after your system. So in Nova Scotia, when you have a power failure, the outages are so long, people will spend days without power because the company doesn't have the manpower to look after it properly.
Now, I can't back that up, but is that like that's what's in the news? If I Google Nova Scotia has power problems, stuff will come up.
Actually,
I bet you it probably didn't impact Alberta too much, though. They don't care.
Well, you'd be surprised. In Alberta,
do they have sales tax there?
Last time I was there, they didn't have any sales tax.
Okay, so they don't care.
But
raise my rates 2%.
But one thing Alberta did is there was one company that was found guilty of manipulating the delivery of the electricity to the consumer. So what they did is they would purposely shut their generator during peak hours, arguing that it was too difficult to provide the electricity, so they could argue the increase of a price again. They actually were found guilty about this. Probably got a slap in the wrist and got a fine that probably cost them nothing.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned that if we put our asset into private hands, we're not protected against those things. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm worried these things may happen.
Well, I'm worried too. I mean, what you just brought up is the classic example about this Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is just going to take the problem to a global level now. And the scariest part that most people don't know about is companies can now start suing town councils or cities or governments. Like, I want to dump 8 billion liters of raw sewage into the St. Lawrence River. Oh, no, you can't because of environmental regulations. It's like, no, I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to win, and you're going to lose, and everybody loses at the end of the day. So that example
there was actually, I believe, in the National
Crazy.
Post this past week, and I don't know the details, but there was actually a talk of an American company suing Canada already because of the
lost profits.
That's right, lost profits that are already in place, right?
Yeah. And if we sell the shares, as suggested, like you say, and at one point we realize it's not working, the government doesn't have the ability to buy it back because
they're broke.
Then a company can sue you from preventing from having
and they're broke, and it seems like it's already going through though. I love some of your quotes though. Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne has pulled an iron curtain over Hydro One, ensuring one of the largest privatizations in the province history will unfold in secret. From the Globe and Mail. Okay, so I buy your argument for higher rates. The funny thing is, though, it hasn't. Let's just say it hasn't started yet. The process of selling it. Right. My hydro rates have continuing to go up, and in my area, they're blaming wind turbines for high hydro rates. Now, I don't know if this is related to who made the decision? Who first thought of the concept? Hey, let's sell hydro. Who thought of that? Any idea the history behind the idea?
Yeah. Earlier this fall, on September the 14th, I went to Queen's Park, and we were there to attend a session about the proposed budget from Kathleen Wynne. And both opposing party, the PCs and the NDP, were constantly nailing the government, saying, listen, more than 80% of Ontarians are against this sale. You can't go ahead and just move on. And even Patrick Brown, who was elected and has become the leader of the PC, has run his campaign on this basis that he opposed also to this sale. So they keep saying you cannot just ignore the will of the Ontarians and go ahead and sell it. But her argument is, I went around in the summer and I've spoken with the mayor of Sarnia and I've spoken with citizens, and they tell me that I need to have a new bridge to draw business in my town. I need to have a new road to draw business in my town. I need these things. And all of a sudden she's attaching the sale of our asset in order to maintain a one-time payment to be able to justify the payment of all these infrastructures. Where as a government, I would expect to have a little more imagination in being able to generate some revenue, not having to sell the house, and then you're going to find because it's a revenue generating. This is what puts money back in our coffers. We can't ignore that. Mm-hmm. It's a cash cow. I have equal billing for my hydro at home, so I pay $257 a month. And that's probably low because I hear a lot of people pay way more than that on a monthly basis. Yeah. There are 4.9 million consumers of electricity in Ontario. What company would like to put their hands on such a cash cow? Mm-hmm. On a monthly, you're going to have $350 to $400 on average from every single home coming to you. Who would want to buy that?
Yeah, and that was one of the selling features in their IPO, which it will come to me what it means.
It's something to do with the improto.
Well, somebody said that it's a guaranteed income. It's great for shareholders because there's no up and down or volatility of markets. No. It's a guaranteed income forever of something like 7 to 9%, which is an amazing number for a shareholder.
For the last 14 years, the profit has grown by 6.3%. Yeah. What kind of RSPs another company has been growing that well in the last?
And that's right. And my understanding too is that famous debt retirement is going to be now removed off of our bill, according to an MPP that we saw, and it's going to be put back onto our corporate, our small businesses and our corporations. But we still get to keep that debt retirement. So we're selling half of or 60% of our asset. and we still get to pay the debt off of it. So there's no debt going along with the sale.
Would you guys be upset if they only sold 40%? Because that's the disturbing part. As you said, once you sell it, it's hard to get it back. But more importantly, they're selling. They're not going to be. They're not going to manage hydro at all. They're just going to be a stakeholder in it.
So how they're actually working it out is that nobody can actually own more than 10 shares at any given time, or 10% of those shares, right? So that's how they're saying they're going to hold the monopoly, or they hold the control factor. Fact of the matter is it's skirting around a responsibility that they have to fix the situation that they have, and then just walk away. We're not going to walk away. And no, selling it off is not an option, any part of it, right? I'm willing to stop it at any point, or try to stop it at any point. But it's owned. It's made by the Ontario people. We built it. We own it. And we should be able to have a say in what we do with it.
I agree with that. And as far as I'm concerned, selling 1% is unacceptable.
Oh.
We haven't been consulted. She had no mandate. She was elected, never mentioning anything as such. All of a sudden it's coming up as part of an omnibus
bill,
project, which is another way to throw things at you. It's easier to
bury it, hide it,
which again brings up a little bit of concern about accountability about our government and our decisions, and it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable for the people of Ontario.
I read an article, and I'm not going to be able to quote everything, but whoever it was, he nailed it on the head. The provincial government consults the municipalities for everything from water control to pit bull regulations, but failed to actually consult the municipalities and what we felt about the sale of Hydro One. You would think that something that's going to impact the municipalities and individuals so greatly, she would consult. And there's over 170 municipalities now that have stepped forward and say, don't sell. And that list is growing, right?
But it's too late.
No, it isn't. I have to interfere here because it is not too late. And you know the expression, it ain't over until the fat lady's singing.
Sure.
I haven't heard the song yet. And this is why we're out in the public. And this is why you're not having this discussion right now.
Yep.
It is not too late.
You sure?
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't believe it.
I know. All right. Well, yeah, we all have our causes that we fight for, but sometimes they're just...
In the end, too, you know what? If it's too late and it's going to be sold, I'm going to remember. I'm going to remember in 3 years what you've done to my public asset. Mm-hmm. And so will the 83% now of Canadians or of Ontarians. And we'll remember that you sold something so willy-nilly without any consultation. And that's what I would be afraid of is...
Well, the government should be afraid because it's going to hurt small businesses. I hear it already right here locally in Ottawa. I mean, people laugh. Some people think the solution to life is starting your own business. I wouldn't start a business today if my life depended. Even if I had the most coolest product in the universe, I would not start a business with zoning and bylaws and licenses and power. And pay for this, and that. Forget about it. I'll work for the government.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Stable job, do nothing, get paid lots of money, and walk away with a pension. I kind of making fun of that. But who would start a small business with hydro rates, what they are, what they're going to be, what they could possibly be? They
don't have a choice as to when they're going to open their doors, if it's peak time or not peak time.
Well, that's the other thing, too. I mean...
And they have employees who they have to depend on who pay their hydro. And, if it's a difference between having an employee or paying your hydros to keep the doors open.
So my attitude is to look forward to the apocalypse when thousands of businesses are closing down and they can directly tie it in to hydro rates. Mm-hmm. Because, if people are... I hear it from farmers. Farmers are big users of power. I won't say they're the most efficient uses of big power, but, they have
But
three-phase.
they need it for their
They need it to run equipment and maintain all sorts of stuff.
Look at greenhouses.
And me, I mean, God, there's nothing on in my house. Everything's either a CFL or an LED light. Temperatures at 15 in the winter. I mean, I can't save anymore. I mean, they keep telling me, do this, do that, buy this, buy a timer. Or the best one I love about Ontario Hydro, the best joke of ever in the life of Ontario Hydro One is where you buy one of their thermostats and they'll control your heat for you.
Thanks.
It's like, thank you very much.
Right along the same lines as the smart meters, right?
Well, yeah, let's talk about smart meters in just a second. But, this thermostat issue, it's like, it's kind of Big Brother-ish, big time. And, the only thermostat you can buy right now is a Wi-Fi thermostat. And I told the guy, why do I need technology in my thermostat? It just measures the heat and turns on when it needs more. That's all it does. Why do I need to tap into my thermostat while I'm on vacation in Florida? Oh, well, you can warm up the house before you get back. It's like, I have a neighbor for that, and he does it for free.
That's what sweaters are for.
And that's what sweaters are for. And the problem is, we're being told day after day to rely on technology. Do your online banking and stream your music and stream your TV. Oh, right. Like, no one ever has a problem with their internet service provider. Ever. And there's no internet fraud or breach of privacy ever happens. And you're never down, the server's down, you can't get into your bank account. I don't buy into any of that. So,
well, talking about thermostat, at least the advanced thermostat will improve the efficiency, how it can control the heat. And I think we could apply this principle. Maybe if we could put a thermostat on Hydro One so we could improve their efficiency, it'd be wonderful. So we could change the settings so we could do this ourselves. Right. But I also need to bring the example that in Canada, only 2 provinces has managed to maintain their whole system, distribution and production of power, public, and that's Manitoba and Quebec. And those 2 provinces have the cheapest rate across the country. Mm-hmm. So if I was going to open a business like you mentioned, I think the cost of the energy that I'm consuming would be a deciding factor to where am I going to open business? Where are we going to maintain our business as well? So I think Ontario we're taking a risk with the privatization because it's been shown time after time after time, privatization increases the cost because the responsibility is to the shareholders. We want to have a profit.
And not just a profit once. It's every year.
Time.
Hey, give me more. Give me more. It's like we can't. We cut all our staff. Right. Yeah. All our equipment's broken. Nothing's working. Then we go to business, and then somebody's got to come in and fix stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, and not only that is okay. So 4 years, a new government comes in. We've made a mistake. We're going to buy back all our shares. Yes, there may be no money, but there's also going to be the fact is she's worked it in that we can never, ever own more than 45% of the shares. Mm-hmm. We can never, and not only her government, but subsequent governments, we can never fix this mistake. Mm-hmm. If we stop it now at any stage, they have to listen.
But now the Wynne government has a super big friend called Justin Trudeau.
Yeah.
What now?
Well,
was that a good thing in your head? Because you're passionate about this,
right?
When you're watching the elections, did you think of that? Did you make that connection? Were you only making...
The way I look at it is a politician gets elected by the people in their riding. And I believe that their first responsibility should be back to those people. So each decision should be taken in consequences that their decisions should be in favor of the public, in favor of the people that brought them there.
Nice theory, but
should be the principle behind democracy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're seeing failure. So, and this is why this coalition of people has come up together. Is we're here to hold the government accountable for their decision, just the same as Trudeau has announced with some of his promises. He was going to change the way we get elected. There'll be more. Proportional representation.
Right.
So I intend to hold them up to that. So this information is out. It's in the media. It's in the public. It's our responsibility as citizens to go and demand it from our leaders. It's also our responsibility to make sure that democracy is maintained. Too often, we sort of say, oh, what is it going to change? What does it matter? It's one signature is not going to make a difference.
Hello, that's me.
And that's wrong. Let's look. Some nations have little democracy, and they fight tooth and nail for it. They're out in the street by tens of thousands of people. There's a passion saying that, no, we will stand against this. And I think as Canadian, we need to take a lesson about this is something that is worthy of our cause. This is something that we need to fight for because it belongs to us. And to a point, I'm going to point to the east a little bit. If we look at the way Passion Quebec people defend their interests, we may agree or disagree what they fight for, but there's a passion in there that says we don't give things up that easily. And I share that passion. I want to make sure that, by golly, if something goes through, you're going to hear about it, and I'll do everything in my power to stop it. So it is not too late to stop it. People can get involved. We have a website address that we'll mention a little later.
We'll mention it a million times here. It's basically hydronotforsale.com or .ca. It seems to be coming up.
hydronotforsale.ca. And there's also a Facebook page, and people are welcome to sign the petition online. We hold a lot of events also in community places inside. And so if you see our booth, feel free to come, ask questions. You may disagree or you may agree with us, and we're open to discuss just like we're doing now. And it's interesting because one time I was meeting with the Table in Perth, which is a food bank and a community center, and they do a great job at helping the people that are in great need of many services. And one lady wasn't quite ready to sign a petition, and she says, well, you tell me one side of the story. I'd like to hear the other side. And I thought it was a good question because you need to have an informed decision. But all I could say is, honestly, I can speak about my side, but I can't even know who the people on the other side are, except for the government. I don't know who they are. Who are these people that are pushing this deal? What's out there? There's no information. In fact, even the Auditor General is barred from getting any of the information in there. With the bill passing in there, the Auditor General will be allowed to look and examine how much either one's privatization is going to affect the government's public account, only by looking how much money it's going to bring in. But she or he cannot look at any further detail about the deal. This is done in secrecy. There's something wrong with there. Mm-hmm. When you're hiding something, the flag should go up and we say, wait a minute, we need to have more questions. We need to have more answers before we can make a decision like that.
A couple of things about the Quebec thing is it used to be the other way around where Quebec rates were actually higher than Ontario, because I lived in Quebec 20 years ago, and that was my biggest complaint, because where I lived, it was all electric heat and baseboard heating, so my bill was through the roof. It was a crappy house. Am I imagining things? Rates were higher in Quebec, let's say 20, 30 years ago than they are now?
I'm also from Quebec, and unfortunately, by the time I left, I was living with my parents, so I never saw the bill. But I think one thing that happens in Quebec often, I think, is they bill every second month, and what they get is not even half of what I need to pay.
And the cool thing, I don't know if you know this, but Cornwall has an amazing deal with Quebec Power.
Yeah.
So Cornwall has their own power that they get from Quebec Hydro. I don't know what the deal, but it's super cheap and high.
Well, it actually makes sense.
And actually, but even those individuals, so we're coming up at the International Power Match. We got 2,500 signatures on our petition, and most of them are from Cornwall saying, I don't even pay for Ontario Hydro. They said, but my friends do. They say, we understand, we still benefit, because not only if you're not paying for Ontario Hydro, you still benefit from the $750 million worth of revenue that the provincial government gets from Ontario Hydro, right? It pays for our infrastructure, it pays for our schools, it pays for our health care, and long-term care. So in the end, even if you're on your public utilities or not paying for Ontario Hydro, you're still benefiting from it. It's going to decrease our revenue from it by less than 25% of what we got now.
We're going to take a small break because it's 8:41. We've been talking for 41 minutes, basically. IPO, by the way, stands for, it just came to me, Initial Public Offering. So, that's where they propose what we plan on doing and how much a share might start and stuff like that. I'm in the studio with Hervé Cavanagh and Rhonda Ferguson. They're from a group called Hydro Not For Sale, hydronotforsale.ca, or look for them on Facebook, Hydro Not For Sale. Now, this is the one time where you can't Google Hydro Not For Sale because everything that comes up it's all pro hydro.
Right.
So it's one word, Hydro Not For Sale. And Google that if you want to find out the Facebook or other pages. Do stick around. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Follow us on Twitter at CKCU FM for up-to-date information on programming, community events, and more.
Thursday, October 29th. Get you and your friends down to the Dom.
Come see Muffler Crunch, the Tannenbaums, and Hawkman. Be a part of a unique live remote broadcast of Ottawa Live music and support CKCU's 2015 funding drive. That's October 29th at the Dominion Tavern. Doors are at 9 o'clock and the cost is $10.
3 great bands, 1 amazing cause at the Dom.
We'll see you there.
8:43 here on the Hump Day version of Special Blend. In the studio is Hervé Cavanagh and Rhonda Ferguson. They're with an organization, Hydro One, not for sale. Say no. Just say no to privatization. It's better than saying no to drugs. Say no to... Seriously, really. I mean, if you're going to say no to something, it's certainly sale of hydro. And I get it. I just, I'm one of those people. I read the news. It's done. It doesn't matter what you or I or what's right, what's logical. And again, we keep forgetting that when you own a giant thing and you're charging customers, there's money that goes into parks and schools. And what bothers me about society these days, it's like that's what government's for, is to, we pay them taxes and they're supposed to do like simple things like water, maybe some traffic and laws and a few simple things, power maybe. And that's what our taxes are for, and period. But now our taxes just go to pay salaries, and everyone that needs things are done by, charities. And right. I have a problem with charities. In my world, charities shouldn't exist. They shouldn't have to exist. You know what I mean?
I think you said it. They shouldn't have to exist.
They shouldn't have to exist. There should be no reason for a food bank. There shouldn't be. Why do we have food banks? Because people can't afford their hydro bills or their rent bills. There shouldn't be a housing crisis. There just shouldn't be. That's what the government's supposed to do. That
you nailed it. Because at the end of the day, we were in Kingston. We had a public forum, and it really truly comes down to a poverty issue. We have how many people who are actually living below the poverty line, and they actually have to say, do I eat or do I put the heat on? Because they can't afford their hydro bills, even as it stands right now. And we have to really focus on that. What's going to happen if that accountability is gone from the provincial government and is now to somebody who's making a profit and looking at it for themselves?
And every winter, it's not something I really find amusing, but I find it amusing that now there's this new thing that gets slipped into newscasts whenever it's cold, and that's people actually dying because they had no heat. It could be oil, there's an emergency oil delivery, or their heat was cut off because they didn't pay a bill. Now that has been changed to some degree, that
Correct.
Hydro can't cut off your power, but it's just still a problem. And poverty, the biggest thing is your housing. And if you make $1,000 and you have to pay $800, $600 just for your house or roof over your head, not a whole lot of money for anything else.
And I find that interesting that for having this discussion. We actually live in Canada and we're in Ontario, and no offense to other countries, but we're well off. Mm-hmm. And it's not a problem of wealth, and it's not a problem of producing the goods and generating money. The problem is in the distribution. So if a few hands are getting most of the resources and whatever is left has to be shared between an enormous amount of people, there's an issue somewhere. Mm-hmm. And this is where, like you mentioned, government are there to produce, the roads and create a conducive environment so we can create business and a flourishing economy. I actually believe governments are failing in doing this right now because the wealth isn't distributed properly. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to happen by selling what we own. By selling 60% of Hydro One, like Rhonda mentioned earlier, last year Hydro One had $749 million in profit. By selling 60% of it, that's nearly $450 million a year that we're giving up. That's the money that goes back to hospital, to healthcare. Healthcare is dear to everyone. Nobody wants to see healthcare disappear. It's also paying for our schools. I'd like my kids to be smart when I get older so they could take care of me. I don't want them to be dumb or anything. If we don't invest in those things, what kind of a society are we heading into? And again, we're talking about Canada and Ontario.
Yeah, but you're talking to the wrong guy because there's no hope, okay? To me, no hope. What I want tomorrow, big meteor hits Earth, wipes us all out, starts again. The Earth will be fine, and hopefully something will come of it. Because honestly, it's so funny. The population talks about these things. We know these things. These core beliefs are pretty common in all of us, And yet, 1% of the world's population owns 99% of the world's wealth. That's it. That's all. Goodbye. Thanks for playing. Live, work, retire, die.
But there's reason for hope, Tick. Because
you're talking to the wrong guy, but tell me, give me your spit
history
on
has shown over and over again. We went through the Dark Ages, and people got fed up. And what is it called, the Magna Carta or something like that?
Yeah.
You got a group of people that actually forced the king to sign an agreement that you can't just screw everybody around. Mm-hmm. And we're doing the same thing now. Now the pendulum is going to one side to another. We're looking at the 50s and after the wartime where everybody was having a good job. If you left your job somewhere, you could go to the next one. Talking to my brother earlier enough, just a couple days ago, back in the 70s, he was a butcher for Steinberg, which has been sold. It was a grocery store at the time. But he was earning $15 an hour back in the 70s. Back then, that was enough for him to pay for his rent. He was able to buy a car, and he actually was able to put a little money aside in savings. Mm-hmm. What kind of a wage now? Because now we're talking record debts in families, part-time positions, part-time job, no security, no benefits, forget the ability of having any savings. So we're getting the pendulum a little too far to the right now, mm-hmm. and we need to have that discussion. I'm not going to just say I wish the meteor would come, and if it lands on Earth, I hope it'll end up on Parliament Hill or on Queen's Park so it can start at a good place. However, like I said earlier, democracy also belongs to the citizens of Ontario, and we need to hold up our politicians accountable for it. And if it means we need to get out there and, like we've done in the past few weeks, Rhonda and I, call those MPPs and continually call in. And interestingly enough, Liberal MPPs are refusing to meet us. They're scared. They're not even wanting to talk to us. If a few does, they shrug their shoulders saying, well, I agree with you in principle, but
my party's going
my hands are tied. This isn't democracy anymore. It's dictator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dictator, yeah.
You can use that word.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is.
It basically what it is, but it's hidden. And
that's what makes it a dictatorship, is when you just do whatever you want without any consultation for the people that voted you in. So I own you, and I own the police, and I own this and that because I voted you in, and I paid your money, and I'm paying your salary, and I'm paying my taxes, and makes me insane.
And a similar situation.
I admire your tenacity, but I gave up long ago.
Oh, well.
But I agree.
So what can people do? What can people do? What do you want them to do?
Well, so talk to your MPPs. They have
in person.
Or call
them,
email them. All of their stuff is online. You can Google your MPP. Show up at their office, because I guarantee you.
And what do you say to them?
I want you to answer to me as to why we're selling Hydro One. We bought it, or we built it. Uh-huh. It's ours. Why would you sell it? Ask them to prove that their rights are not going to go down, because I guarantee you that they can't. That's a common question that we're having at Queen's Park from the leaders of the opposition, and she will not answer. The Premier will not answer. The blanket statement is going to be that privatization will give you cheaper rates. We can prove privatization will give you higher rates, because time and time again, 407, NAVCAN, you can add several.
It doesn't matter. I mean, the concept of when you have a for-profit anything, institution, company, corporation, what if it's for profit, get it. For profit. That company must make and it's not even sometimes, like, even the CEOs can't make decisions based on their morality or ethics, because the CEO is meaningless without that board of directors and the chairman of the board, and they could fire the CEO. It's the chair of the board and the stakeholders that make the decisions. And
absolutely,
I want more money. Give me more money.
Absolutely. And make sure when you're talking to your MPPs that you're going to remember, you know what, you're selling off things that you don't own, or you don't have the right to sell. And I'm going to remember that, right? Hold them accountable. Get online, sign our petition, come find us.
Yeah, you're around a lot, eh? Because
we are everywhere.
How many signatures did you get?
At the Plowing Match, we got approximately 2,500.
That's not bad.
Since then, we've gotten probably double that. Because we're getting out there. We'll come and speak to your organization if you want. We have people across the province. We have people in up north, and Sarnia and Toronto. We're doing the Eastern Ontario part, so we go everywhere from
It's too
Belleville
bad you didn't
to
do
Cornwall to.
schools.
Well, interestingly enough, yesterday we were at Algonquin College, and tomorrow we will be at Algonquin College again. So we'll have a table, and it'll be easy to see. It's with a big red banner, Hydro One Not
You
for
got
Sale.
great fridge magnets, by the way.
Yes.
and they
They're
are bumper
huge.
stickers.
The big red.
Yes, yeah.
It's a magnet, but it could stick on your car too.
It's on my bumper.
There you go. So yeah, bumper sticker, but it
Looks
could
good
be
on your convertible,
a
right?
giant on my fridge magnets. No, I've got it on my electric baseboard heater that's out of commission because I can't afford the hydro rate to turn it on. So I'd rather have a cold library than turn on the heat. So you're on Facebook. Just go to Facebook, of course. Look for Hydro Not for Sale, or go to hydronotforsale.ca. Google Hydro Not for Sale. You'll find more information. Where are you going to be now? You say
Algonquin? Yeah,
When?
Algonquin College tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
We'll be there. We're aiming to be there from around 8 till 4, so we'll be there for the whole day.
See, wouldn't it be better if you went to grade 4 and 5 to teach kids, break it down to their level with nice pictures of, I don't know, whatever.
That's right.
Whatever's in a
But that's the
5-year-old.
future. The kids are the future. Right now,
Well, I know, but
because the time is the essence. So
but
we need
it's
to
not
get
just-
right away to the issue and get the support right off the bat to stop that sale. And
It's already-
education comes after.
It's already going ahead.
But that's okay. One thing I need to add also, when we said, a lot of people shrug their shoulders and say, what can I do? As Rhonda mentioned earlier, you see MPP, and it might be easy for me to babble for quite a while, and it's easy for me, but for some people are not comfortable. But you don't have to be fancy to go and see your MPP. Simply go there and say, I'm angry. I'm angry about my hydro rates. I can't afford it anymore. And I'm angry because you're going to sell it, and I'm worried that it's going to cost even more. It's that simple. And if the message comes on and on and on again, they will need to listen. Target their phone. Bombard them. Keep calling. Don't take no for an answer. Because most of the time they say, oh, well, do you live in the riding? Yes, I do. And then, oh, well, call you back. Well, 2 days later, if you haven't heard, call again. Bob Charlie is in Ottawa. I live in Perth. Now, I'm not in his riding, but I figure he's the Ministry of Energy. I should be able to meet the guy. So after calling 4 times in his office, not able to talk to the man himself, and always get somebody before, I keep saying, well, you don't live in the riding. I said, it doesn't matter. You're the ministry. You represent my interests as well. I want to meet with you. So the best I've done so far is got a website address. I could send him an email, and I got his Toronto phone call. So get ready, Bob. I'm going to be calling very soon in Toronto, and I'm going to make sure that we're going to meet to say that we're not happy about our rates, we're not happy about the proposed sale, and you must backtrack.
But you see, this is the unique property of a politician. It's like water just falls off their back. They don't give a rat's ass. If they had a line up there at their door and the phones were ringing off the hook, and as far as email, delete. There's no accountability.
That's why we need to meet
part
in
of
person.
Reform.
Yeah.
So give the guy a heart attack by harassing him in person every day. I'm a fan of that. But like you say, it's so hard to meet your MP and.
Well, then if you watched, I know I'm odd, I sit there and watch the arguments back and forth at Queen's Park. Right?
Yeah, you are odd.
I am odd.
That's hard. That is hard.
It's hard.
Core TV watching if you can watch that crap. Oh, my.
In the end, we're hoping that somebody will actually listen. Premier Wynne, if you're listening to this, we need you to listen to the 83%. And we don't need a mothering type of atmosphere. We know what is best for Ontario, and you're not listening. We need you to listen and actually understand we're intelligent about our conversation, and it's not for sale, and you can't sell it. We don't want you to sell it. You need to find another way. You need to find efficiency. You need to be a proper manager, as we've elected you to be, and find better efficiencies and keep it as ours.
And take one thing we know for sure is if you do nothing, it'll change nothing.
It's like the lottery. If you don't play, you certainly won't win. So
that's right.
Yeah.
But the problem is, if you don't speak, politicians take this as a support. So make sure that when you speak, it has to be against what they're believing in, and it has to be about your concerns. So if you don't speak, nothing changes. You must speak. Nothing will change unless we get out there and pull our sleeves back and tell them that you must stop this right now.
I admire your tenacity at this issue. Again, I have world experience, and I have no hope for humanity. You know, like, I admire the cause. I support the cause. I might even call my MP who just got, reelected. It's like, dude, I hate your guts. Your party's in the toilet. However, we got a problem in this province with our hydro rates. He doesn't care because he lives in Cornwall.
Let's look at it this way. 83% are against the sale of Hydro One.
Where does that number come from?
Medias, it's happening everywhere. It's been independent. Sometimes your number will fluctuate.
I've seen it,
but
it's
you
like,
always
where'd that come
have
from?
a strong majority against it. So what kind of politician wouldn't want to have an 80% support when it's time to vote for them?
Absolutely, but like I'm reading right here, it was published just a couple of days ago, the 18th, I think, of September, and it's like they filed their IPO.
The last I know, it hasn't been sold yet, and I'm still out there pounding at their doors.
326 pages. You gotta try to get that document. It's 326 pages. The perspective that they give to. I'd love to read that because there's some details in here, and this is why I asked you earlier. It's like, could you live with them selling maybe 30% to get some upfront cash? And you said not even 1%.
Not even 1%.
And here it is. With respect to ownership, Hydro One, the province will engage in the business affairs, but as an investor and not a manager. So, I don't know. One could argue, them being the investors, they could demand, it would be the government working against ourselves. The investor, the government, asking Hydro, the company, we want more profit on the backs of the people who voted them in.
And if you say that a company cannot buy more than 10% of the shares, what stops a company from having some divisions buying different parts? Yeah. And at one point, you find yourself, wait, I only got 40%. This guy owns 51%. Mm-hmm. Who calls the shot now?
Yeah. Sad story. I wish you all the best. You'll be at Algonquin what time?
We'll be there from 8 to 4 tomorrow.
8 to 4, where? In the Commons building? Do you know where?
We were told to be either building J or building...
something.
A or J.
Okay. Well, again, we're running out of time. See how fast that went? 8:59. We got to do the news. Thank you very much, Hervé and Rhonda.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best. Don't forget, people, go to Hydro One Not For Sale, or is it just Hydro Not For Sale? No. Yeah, hydronotforsale.ca, and look for them on Facebook, Hydro Not For Sale. Do what you can. If you don't get it, I don't know what to say to you. Again, you're losing a lot of money, and you're going to pay higher hydro rates. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with wind turbines, does it? Yes or no?
No.
Good, good. Because a lot of people think it is. 8 o'clock, we got to go to the BBC News. Do stick around. I will be back after that.
You're listening to CKCU 93.1 FM in Ottawa.
The BBC World Service News is sponsored in part by you, the listener. This is listener-supported radio, CKCU 93.1 FM.